Xbow is a deck that requires a lot of precision and calculation to play correctly, and there are vastly different approaches to every single matchup. Hey guys, it's right here and welcome back to another Clash Royale video, and today we're going to be breaking down the 2.9 Xbow versus Elixir Golem matchup. And of course, I'm not alone. Today I have Candyman and Mike on to share their replays against Elixir Golem decks. Of course, their links are all going to be down below, so be sure to check them out. And while you're there, hey, be sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this one. And with that said, let's quickly go over a game plan and then break down a couple matches. So starting off the match, the goal is obviously to determine what kind of deck you are against. There are multiple ways to do this. The most effective way is to just kind of passively cycle your cards in the back. Your Ice Golem, your Archers, your Skeletons, your Ice Spirits, your Log, and so on. Those cards can, begin to get chip damage on your opponent's tower while also putting the ball in their hands to make the first major commitment. Now I know that a few Xbow players do like to play Xbow First Play, but honestly Xbow First Play is just way too risky and inconsistent, so it's definitely not something that I would recommend you guys doing. So now that you've got that down, how do you determine if you're against an Elixir Golem? Well, taking a quick look at a couple of Elixir Golem decks that are quite popular this meta, you can see that, Battle Healer, Magic Archer, Electro Dragon, Tornado, Bar Barrel, and, the Elixir Golem are all cards that are extremely popular in this archetype. So if you see those cards popping up, then definitely keep that in mind. Once you've determined the opponent is playing the Elixir Golem, here's what you do. Essentially, you're gonna just keep cycling your cards until your opponent plays a specific card in the back. The cards you're looking for are the Elixir Golem, the Battle Healer, the Electro Dragon, and the Night Witch. As soon as you see one of those 4 cards played in the back, immediately Xbow in the opposite lane. What this does is it forces your opponent to spend Elixir to defend your Xbow, meaning that they won't be able to support the push that they originally wanted to build. Then after that, as long as you're able to keep a moderate to high pressure throughout the whole match, you should be able to take control and eventually win the game. On the defensive end, Archers are going to be the MVPs of the match, so you're going to make sure you want to protect the Archers along with the Tesla. Against an Elixir Golem deck with the Fireball, you're going to want to space them out so that the Fireball can't get any value, and against an Elixir Golem deck with the Earthquake, which is an even worse matchup, you're going to want to really make sure that the opponent cannot clip the Archers with the Tesla. After that, essentially just save your Log onto those Elixir blobs, because that'll bring the blobs down to a one-hit kill, which will essentially give you 4 Elixir really quickly, allowing you to rush opposite lane again with an Xbow, and then at this point you're just kind of rinsing and repeating. Now of course this is a very general game plan and is assuming that pretty much everything goes correctly, so without further ado, let's just go ahead and hop into a few matches and break down exactly how these Xbow players defeat the Elixir Golem. So this first match here is an absolute treat from Candyman, and he actually manages at top 200 ladder to take down an Elixir Golem, Earthquake, Barbarian Hut deck using 2.9 Xbow. It is an insane match, so let's go ahead and hop right into the replay. Alrighty, so the start of this match is pretty standard, just log onto the Bar Barrel so the Barbarian doesn't get any chip damage. Now here I want to note that he does go in with an Xbow just straight up because he does know the matchup. He knows that the opponent here is very likely going to play something in the back. Therefore, like I said, once the Elixir Golem player plays something in the back to build up a push, you Xbow opposite lane, which is exactly what he does here, but instead it was more of a predictive Xbow. So here, again, that stops him from building up a push in the right lane, but instead he has to defend the left lane. He does that really smart. Note the Archers right there will not get hit by the E-Drag until much later. Log onto the blobs, give him 4 more Elixir, and note here he does not spend any additional Elixir defending the E-Drag because he tries to get a King activation right there, but as you can see, the opponent predictive NATOs that Ice Spirit so that Candyman does not activate the King's Tower. That is some crazy stuff right there. And here Candyman does Xbow, and The reason he Xbows here, even though you can see the opponent has the Earthquake in hand, is because that way you can cycle back to a second Xbow faster than they can cycle back to their counters. In this case, the opponent just simply goes in with a Battle Healer and an Earthquake, and that Xbow is pretty much dead, but it's not all the way dead. He will still protect the Xbow, forcing out a Barbarian right there. And here's a really important play. He plays an Ice Spirit to protect the Archer. You're gonna see how this play becomes very important towards the end of the match, getting him a couple hundred damage onto the opponent's tower. So as you can see here, very effective use of your cycle cards is absolutely important in these matches. So here he fireballs onto the Barb Hut. Again, he knows the matchup, he knows the opponent doesn't have the magic archer. In addition, if he fireballs first, that means he can cycle back to another fireball much quicker. Now, the opponent, again, is just going to try and build up a big push. So he goes in with that baby dragon in the back, and Candyman will defensive Xbow. Now, note this defense right here. Ice Golem to kite everything, and then Skeletons to start DPSing down that Elixir Golem. Then Fireball takes out the Elixir Golemites, Log brings those Elixir Blobs down, Ice Spirit freezes everything, and then he cycles back to another Ice Golem Archers combination. However, the opponent is back to another Barb Hut, and there's just no way to break through. The Barb Hut is placed in a farther position so that it's much harder for the opponent to snipe, and here again Candyman realizes that this is going to be a game of tower damage, so he goes ahead and fireballs onto that hut, meanwhile preparing to defend this push, because again, if he fireballs first, you can see he's already back to the fireball. So look at this push right here. Ice Golem distracts everything, he earthquakes onto the defensive Xbow right there, Log right there, fireball onto everything, takes this stuff out, and wow, look at this defense. The opponent is back to his second Elixir Golem, but he's still able to defend. We're gonna watch this sequence one more time just so you can catch everything that went down in this defensive sequence. Alright, so you can see here that Candyman plays those archers in the back first so he can cycle back to a set of archers quicker. Then he goes in with a defensive Xbow opposite lane because the opponent will most likely earthquake that Xbow, meaning that the archers will stay healthy. Next up here, he plays a high Ice Golem so that you can see here the NATO doesn't pull it into the archers, and so the archers will survive for just a little bit longer. Next up, he logs onto the Elixir Golemites, and then a fireball can just take those out. That gives him 4 more elixir for him to cycle back to a second set of archers, and note this high Tesla placement. This high Tesla placement will avoid any potential earthquakes or tornadoes from getting those archers as well. Then an Ice Golem pretty much neutralizes that Electro Dragon. It doesn't do that much damage on its own, so the Electro Dragon will be stalled on that Ice Golem for a while. And here he goes in with an offensive Xbow, knowing that that log onto the Elixir Blobs is gonna pretty much give him 4 more elixir to support his Xbow. So as you can see, he gets all that elixir right there, but Battle Healer Earthquake, man, pretty much finishes off that entire Xbow. Of course, Candyman still tries to protect it with a quick fireball right there, and the Xbow would have locked on if not for that Elixir Golem from the opponent. So here the opponent does actually get quite a bit of damage onto the tower, and it's not looking too good. The opponent takes the tower down to 1634. And yeah, with just a minute 30 left in the match, Candyman goes in with another defensive Xbow because again, he knows that this is going to be a game of tower damage. He's confident that he can defend any and all pushes from his opponent, and we're about to see right now. As you can see here, unfortunately, Predictive NATO takes out those archers, but an Ice Golem down in time will buy that tower enough time to damage it down. Meanwhile, the high Tesla will force the opponent to earthquake onto the Tesla, stopping him from getting chip damage onto the tower. He's back to skeletons. The skeletons will pretty much DPS down the Elixir Golem. Log gives him pretty much 4 more elixir right there, and then once again back to another Ice Golem to distract the baby dragon. Here the opponent does fail a NATO, and again a high Tesla, and at this point the opponent also realizes that he needs to get damage onto the tower. So that high Tesla is pretty much going to be safe because there's no way for the earthquake to actually clip both the tower and the Tesla. And look at all this stuff. He cycles back to a fireball, and again, high Tesla will avoid that earthquake value. Log clips onto the tower again, back to archers, back to another fireball. Ice Golem this time will distract, and note that it's played far enough that it avoids any predictive NATO. If that Ice Golem was played in range of that NATO, the baby dragon would have targeted onto the tower. Again, a high Tesla will avoid earthquake value. Log chips onto the tower, fireball chips onto the tower. 10 seconds left. Candyman can only cycle back to one more set of fireballs. And again, note that Ice Golem avoids that predictive NATO, so the baby dragon does not splash onto the tower. And then one more set of fireball logs will seal the deal. Candyman gets by just 12 HP and takes a game off of Elixir Golem, Barb Hut, Earthquake. I mean, how hard of a counter do you need to take this man down? That's definitely a match that, you should watch over a couple of times, but of course, let's hop right into the next one. Alrighty, so this next match is shared by Mike here, and it's another insanely difficult matchup. Xbow 2.9 versus Elixir Golem Barbarian Hut, this time with the poison in the deck. Alright, so start of this match, again, pretty standard. He's just going to cycle an Ice Spirit here at the bridge to get some chip damage, forcing out a Barb Barrel from the opponent. Mike's just going to straight up log that out. He does not want to take any damage whatsoever from that Barbarian right there. And here, Mike does make a bit of a controversial play. He goes in with archers in the back, followed up by an Xbow on offense. But if you actually, pause right here and take a look at his hand, it's actually a pretty awkward hand. He doesn't particularly like to Ice Golem because Ice Golem is the only mini tank in the 2.9 Xbow deck. In addition, his opponent is just sitting on 10 Elixir, and Mike already has archers down to support an offensive push. Therefore, he decides to go in with an offensive Xbow. The opponent just straight up battle healers at the bridge and then poisons onto the Xbow. However, Mike still does protect it because the Xbow is still going to be alive, forcing out a magic archer from the opponent, and he logs that out. Xbow, even though still has a sliver of health, still gets a ton of damage onto his tower, taking it down to 2785 with a nice and early lead. So now again, Mike just resets. He's already back to his Xbow, and he's just gonna go and split his archers and try and repeat the same thing. However, the opponent here goes in with the Barb Hut, and here Mike will just snipe that Barb Hut away. Note the Xbow placement. The Xbow is played so that the poison cannot actually reach his weaker tower as well as the Xbow. So the opponent will just kind of have to pick and choose what he wants to poison. However, he sends in a Barbarian Barrel right there, and yeah, the Xbow is just gonna continue getting a ton of value, taking out those Barbarians. Here, Mike does cycle an Ice Golem in the back, followed by skeletons. Again, he's just cycling back to an Xbow, and here the opponent plays an Electro Dragon in front of his King's Tower, and Mike immediately Xbows opposite lane right there, because that's 5 Elixir down the drain. That's not going to help defend this Xbow push whatsoever. So, heading towards double Elixir time, as you can see, this Tesla is just going to get so much value. It takes out the Battle Healer right there, and then it's going to take out the Electro Dragon as well, forcing out an Elixir Golem on the opponent. And here, Barb Barrel, unfortunately, will get a bit of value and unfortunately take down the Xbow, but Mike is back to a second Xbow right there. And note how he was able to use his cycle cards very effectively while also advancing his cycle for very cheap costs, meaning that he can just continue to cycle back to multiple Xbows. And then he's going to go in with a defensive Xbow this time because poison is out of cycle. He can just straight up Xbow in the center without worrying too much, and he still gets an Xbow lock right there with a couple hundred damage. So again, Mike here is just going to reset right here. He's got a defensive Xbow and a defensive Tesla, and yeah, the Tesla is going to do absolute work. The Ice Golem was distracting all the units behind the Elixir Golem, a Fireball to take out the Magic Archer right here. And again, we're going to rewind this defense one more time after this. You can see the Tesla takes everything out, and then Fireball finishes everything off right there. So let's go ahead and rewind and break down that defense one more time, just so you can catch everything that you may have missed. Alright, so again here, note that he plays the archers first. Just like the previous match, you want to cycle back to a second set of archers as soon as possible, and then he plays an Ice Golem. Again, just to get those cards out of hand as fast as possible, just so he can cycle to a second one. Then he goes in with a defensive Tesla, which will obviously help out on defense. And if you take a look back at the Ice Golem he placed earlier, the Ice Golem's actually going to distract all of his supporting units, and look at that, the Elixir Golem is pretty much dead by the time the supporting units even cross the bridge. Then he fireballs out that magic archer, and here he's going to cycle an Ice Golem up high, log onto the Elixir blobs, and with the extra elixir he places another center Tesla. Now the opponent has 2 Electro Dragons down, and he's just gonna cycle an Ice Spear to cycle to a Fireball, finish off the Electro Dragons right there, and then a final Ice Golem will seal the deal. Skeletons down will get him some extra elixir once the Elixir blobs pop. Archers will finish off the Elixir blobs, and then Mike will Xbow opposite lane. Like I said, you finish out that Elixir Golem, and then you can immediately Xbow in the opposite lane. So unfortunately, the opponent did have Barb Hut in cycles, so that Xbow is pretty much dead and is not going to connect on the tower, but the archers on the left side do, and an additional Fireball will take the tower down to 1787. Just like the previous match, Mike knows that this is probably going to be a game of tower damage, so he's going to get as much Fireball value on the tower as possible. So again, just like last time, archers in the back first, Ice Spear up high, which will freeze everything, and Ice Golem to continue to distract, and then skeletons down, archers down, a log to cycle to a second Tesla. Second Tesla goes down up high, again avoiding poison value, and then Mike goes in with an Xbow opposite lane. Now this Xbow isn't supposed to connect onto the tower, it's supposed to force out a defense, and as you can see, the opponent has to spend 5 elixir on an Electro Dragon to take out that Xbow. And you know, unfortunately that Xbow goes down, but that was also just to make sure that the opponent could not use that Electro Dragon on his own offense. So now Mike goes in with another Xbow on offense, Fireball down. There's only 20 seconds left in overtime, so I mean at this point Mike is just gonna start firing those spells at the opponent's tower and try and get it down as much as possible. 10 seconds left, he's just gonna send in that Fireball. The opponent does get a nice predictive NATO right here, and the Magic Archer gets some chip damage on the tower, but as you can see, he's gonna win by a very comfortable 800 HP advantage in this tiebreaker. So another seemingly difficult matchup, and it is a difficult matchup, but Mike is able to completely break the matchup down and pretty much stay in control of this entire match the whole entire time. So there we go, exactly how to beat the Elixir Golem using 2.9 Xbow. There are so many interactions that go on in these matches that I personally had to watch each and every one so many times just to fully break everything down. But again, these are just some textbook matches that you really want to have down. I really hope you guys took something away from this video, and of course, let me know down below which matchups I should cover next. Again, huge thanks to Candyman and Mike for sharing these replays. Check out their Twitters down below, and also huge thanks to my bros in the Legendary squad. More info on that will be in the join button down below. But unfortunately, guys, that's all I've got time for in today's episode. If you enjoyed, please leave a like down below, as well as a subscription to my channel. And as always, this is Legendaray, and I'm signing off. See you guys next time.